My mother canceled my wedding and then called it a circus. My sister just smirked and said, "Better luck next time." I only replied, "Understood." Weeks later, when they were the ones asking for help, I texted back, "The circus is already full." My mother wore Chanel to her fraud hearing. An ivory double-breasted jacket, her best pearls, cream-colored heels with a low, careful heel. She looked like she was attending a private luncheon, not sitting in a courtroom to answer for $150,000 missing from accounts that traced back to her own daughter. That daughter was me. I sat 12 feet away in a gray blazer I had bought the week before because I needed something that said, "I am not collapsing under this." I watched her settle into her seat with practiced ease, the kind of composure that comes from a lifetime of never being questioned. She adjusted her lapel, touched her pearls, looked straight ahead. He did not look at me. That was fine. I had enough truth in me to hold both our gazes. Before all of this, I should tell you who I was. Because the before matters. It explains everything the after had to fix. My name is Olivia Reed. I'm 29 years old. I work as a senior project coordinator at an architecture firm in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's the kind of job that sounds dull to people who don't understand structure, but deeply satisfying if you do. I like systems, order, things that hold. I learned that early because my childhood required it. My mother, Patricia Reed, was the kind of woman people called formidable, like it was a compliment and a warning at the same time. She ran our home like a controlled operation. Hierarchies, expectations, consequences. Everything had its place. Everything had its price. My father, Robert, was quiet in the way some men become after years of agreeing too much. He smiled, he nodded, he stayed out of the way. I used to think that was peace. I understand now it was surrender. My sister, Grace, was 3 years younger and in my mother's world the preferred outcome. Pretty in the approved way. Polished without effort. The kind of girl who fit easily into country club photos and made my mother feel reflected rather than challenged. Grace also had something else. Adaptability. She agreed easily. She didn't question the shape of things. She knew when to look away. That was valuable currency in our house. I never learned how to spend it. And then there was Ethan. Ethan Marsh came into my life 4 years ago at a housewarming party through a mutual friend. Civil engineer. 32. Quiet in groups, sharp in one-on-one conversations. The kind of man who fixed your leaking faucet before you finished explaining it was leaking. I loved him in a simple, steady way that didn't require performance. He proposed on a Tuesday night in our kitchen while I was washing dishes. No candles. No audience. No carefully staged moment. Just him asking because he was ready. It should have looked ordinary. It wasn't. It was honest. My mother didn't like Ethan. She never said it directly. He didn't need to. He was too precise for that. But I felt it in the way the air shifted whenever his name entered a room. Small comments disguised as observation. Ohio. No family, summer home. A 6-year-old truck. Nothing ever openly criticized. Everything carefully implied. When I told her we were engaged, she smiled, hugged me and said, "How wonderful, darling." And I believed her. As I had spent 29 years practicing that mistake. There were others. 6 weeks before the wedding, my mother called on a Sunday. Her voice was warm, helpful, almost generous. "Let me handle the vendor payments," she said. "You focus on the fun parts. I'll take care of the logistics." Something in me hesitated. A small internal pause. A warning that didn't yet have language. But I ignored it. I was close enough to the wedding to stop questioning kindness that sounded like relief. "Are you sure?" I asked. "Of course," she said. "You're my daughter." So I sent her everything. The full vendor list. Contracts. Payment schedules. Names, numbers, deadlines. I even built a spreadsheet because that's what I do when I want things to feel safe. I emailed it to her with a thank you note. I even added a heart. For 3 weeks, everything looked normal. She sent confirmations. Receipts. Forwarded emails from vendors. A shared folder titled, Olivia's Wedding Payments. It all looked clean. Organized. Legitimate. Like trust. The first call came on a Thursday morning. October 12th. 9:18 a.m. I remember the time because I had just set down my coffee when the phone rang. "I'm calling about the cancellation of your November 4th booking," the venue coordinator said. I didn't move. "I'm sorry," I said slowly. "What cancellation?" We received a signed cancellation notice last week, she replied. We assumed you had already made alternative arrangements. I didn't send anything, I said. Pause. Then, we have your signature on file. She emailed it within seconds. There was my name, my signature. Almost right. The shape was familiar enough that a stranger wouldn't question it. But I would. The loops were slightly too open. The ending stroke too soft. Close enough to pass. Close enough to destroy. I'll call you back, I said. Then I hung up. Within an hour the calls multiplied. Florist. Caterer. Photographer. Cake designer. Hair and makeup. String quartet. Each one carrying the same message. Cancellation confirmed. Signed authorization received. By noon, every vendor had called. Someone had used my identity to erase my wedding from existence. And they had done it cleanly. I sat in a bathroom stall at work for 6 minutes without crying. Not because I was fine. Because something in me had gone very still. Then I washed my face, walked back to my desk, picked up my keys and drove. I didn't call ahead. I didn't think. I just went. 40 minutes down 85, my mind replaying every detail I had missed. Every moment I thought I was being helped. By the time I reached her house, the sky felt too bright for what I was about to do. The front door was unlocked. It always was. My mother believed locked doors were for people who expected consequences. She was in the kitchen when I walked in, arranging roses from her garden into a crystal vase. Soft pink petals. Perfect stems. Controlled beauty. She looked up with calm curiosity. Olivia, she said lightly. I didn't know you were coming. I held up my phone. On the screen, the cancellation notice. Why? I said. My mother didn't answer right away. She looked at the phone in my hand as if it were something mildly inconvenient, then returned to her roses. She lifted her shears, snipped another stem at a clean angle, and lowered it into the crystal vase with deliberate care. It's for your own good, she said finally. Ethan isn't right for you. You'll understand that eventually. One day you'll thank me. Her tone wasn't angry. It was certain. From the doorway Grace appeared. Not rushed. Not surprised. Just there. Arms folded, shoulder resting against the frame, wearing that small knowing smile she always had when she was sure the outcome was already decided. We're protecting you, she said softly. 2 voices. 1 script. I looked at my mother. Then at Grace. Then at the roses in the vase. Soft pink, perfect, untouched by anything honest. I didn't argue. I didn't plead. I turned and walked out. In the car I didn't start the engine right away. My hand stayed on the steering wheel, unmoving as if movement would make everything real too quickly. What I felt wasn't grief. Not yet. It was sharper than that. Cleaner. The moment a question you've avoided your entire life finally stops being optional. I drove home. Inside my apartment I opened my laptop and went straight to the folder my mother had been sending updates to for weeks. Receipts. Vendor confirmations. Payment summaries. Everything neatly organized. Everything apparently handled. I opened the files one by one. At first glance nothing was wrong. The numbers matched. The names matched. The dates were plausible enough to pass without suspicion. But I stopped at the account numbers. Something about them didn't sit right. Not the digits themselves. The structure. The familiarity. Like I had seen that format somewhere before in a different context I couldn't immediately place. I sat back slowly. Then stood. And went to the filing cabinet in my closet. It was the one constant I'd carried through 3 apartments. Half archive, half memory. I rarely opened it. Inside was everything childhood had left behind when no one was looking. Report cards, birthday notes, acceptance letters, folded papers my mother had once told me to keep safe. I opened the bottom drawer. Near the back was a manila envelope. My full name was written across the front in my mother's handwriting. Olivia Catherine Reed, custodial account. I stared at it longer than I needed to. My parents had mentioned it only twice in my life. A college fund, they said. Something set aside when I was young. Something that helped. I had never questioned it. I paid my way through most of college through scholarships and part-time work, assuming whatever had existed was small, supplemental, already gone. I opened the envelope. Inside were statements. Old ones. My fingers slowed as I compared the account number on the earliest statement to the one on the vendor receipt from my laptop. They were identical. For a moment my body didn't react at all. Then something inside me dropped. Not panic. Recognition. I had seen this account before. Not in my life. In my mother's documents. I closed the folder and reached for my phone. There was only one person I trusted with this kind of silence. Margaret Carter, I said when she answered. I think something is wrong with an account my parents managed for me. I need help understanding what I'm looking at. She didn't respond immediately. Not confusion. Not surprise. Just a long measured pause. Come to my office, she said finally. Tonight. 7 o'clock. Her office sat in a low brick building near the courthouse. Old wood. Tall filing cabinets. A desk that looked like it had survived every kind of family dispute imaginable and refused to move on. She was already there when I arrived at 6:58. I placed the envelope on her desk. She looked at it without touching it. Then with a quiet shift in expression, subtle but absolute, she reached into her drawer and slid out another folder. My name is on yours, she said. Before we go further, I want you to see this. Inside was a trust document. The paper felt heavier than it should have. At the top in careful handwriting, the Olivia Catherine Reed Trust. Established March 14, 2004. I scanned the page. Then stopped breathing altogether. $275,000. My grandfather. A man I remembered as quiet, practical, unremarkable in the way good men often are. An electrician who fixed things instead of speaking about them. A man who saved everything and wasted nothing. He had left this for me. Miss Carter's voice stayed steady. The principal was protected, she said. Untouchable until a triggering event. I looked up. What triggering event? She turned a page. Either you turn 30 or you get married. Silence filled the room. And once that happens, she continued, a mandatory audit is triggered. Every transaction since the trust was created is reviewed by an independent financial examiner. My throat tightened. She began laying documents across the desk. Not the custodial account. The trust account. Statements I had never seen. Because they had never been sent to me. They had been sent to my parents. Kitchen renovation, $25,000. Grace's business startup, $50,000. Anniversary trip, $11,400. Country club dues. My father's car. Years of expenses labeled carefully, politely, falsely. Each one signed off under categories that sounded harmless. Family support. Household management. General care. The language of justification. Over 11 years. $151,400 gone. I didn't speak. I didn't move. I just sat there while the shape of my life quietly rearranged itself into something I no longer recognized. My mother hadn't canceled my wedding out of concern for Ethan. She had canceled it to prevent the audit. To stop the moment where everything she had taken would finally be examined. Every vendor cancellation. Every forged signature. Every moment of control. It wasn't chaos. It was containment. I looked up at Miss Carter. File everything, I said. She nodded once as if she had been expecting nothing less. There's one more thing, she added. She placed a final document on the desk. My wedding cancellation notice. Next to it, a trust signature card. Both bore my name. She tapped the page lightly. This, she said, is what connects it all. Then she looked at me. And Olivia, this isn't just fraud. Her voice lowered slightly. This is criminal. The word didn't echo. It settled. Like something final. Who do we talk to? I asked. Miss Carter didn't hesitate. The police. And a forensic examiner. The next 72 hours stopped feeling like time. They became sequence. Evidence. Meetings. Confirmations. Reports. Dr. Philip Okafor studied my signature for 37 minutes without speaking, then looked up and said, "This is a trained imitation. Not yours." Detective Angela Hurst didn't interrupt once. She just took notes, steady and precise, then asked for everything in order so it could hold up later. By the time she closed my folder, she said quietly, "This is going to escalate fast." And for the first time since it began, I believed her. The room shifted as Detective Hurst continued. The trust misappropriation along with the forged cancellation documents, she said evenly, indicates potential wire fraud, criminal forgery under North Carolina General Statute 14-119, and breach of fiduciary duty as a co-administrator of a trust. Her eyes lifted to mine. This is serious. I know, I said. She didn't soften her expression. Your mother is listed as a co-administrator on the trust documents. Your father is as well, though based on preliminary findings, Miss Carter believes he may not have been the primary actor. She made another note in her pad. I'll need subpoena access to the trust accounts. That will take a few days. And until then, don't discuss this with your family. I nodded. Detective, I said, I haven't spoken to my mother since Thursday. That made her pause. Then quietly, good. She wasn't the only one trying to reach me that week. Sunday night, 11:47 p.m. My phone lit up 3 times in a row. My mother. No voicemail. Just persistence. Then a text followed. Olivia, I know you're upset. Please call me. We should talk as a family before this goes any further. A minute later, my sister. Mom is worried. She just wants what's best for you. You know that. I stared at both messages. Then I screenshotted them. And forwarded them to Miss Carter without a single word. The hardest call that week wasn't to law enforcement. It was to Ethan. Friday night. Our couch. My hands cold even inside my sleeves. I told him everything. The trust. The forged signatures. The cancelled wedding. The money. All of it. He didn't interrupt. He didn't react immediately either. Just silence. Long enough that I started to regret speaking at all. Then he finally said, So your mother cancelled our wedding to cover up money? Yes, I said. And the money was yours the whole time. Another pause. Yes. He exhaled slowly, then reached for my hand and held it. No speeches. No shock theatrics. Just presence. We sat there until the room turned dark around us and neither of us bothered turning on the light. What do you want to do? He asked eventually. I already told the lawyer to file, I said. He nodded once. Then we book a new venue. So simple. Like the answer to betrayal was logistics. Like the world could be corrected if you just kept moving forward. I loved him in a steady way, the way I loved anything that proved itself reliable. But that night I felt it with a clarity that made my chest ache. Something deeper than love, closer to recognition. Like I had finally stopped standing alone inside my own life. The hearing was set for a Thursday morning in December. 49 days after Ivy Oaks Garden made that first call. 49 days in which my life stopped being ordinary and became evidence. Miss Carter filed the civil fraud suit seeking full restitution and damages. Detective Hurst's investigation escalated in parallel, resulting in criminal charges. Forgery and breach of fiduciary duty, formally brought by the district attorney. Civil court came first. I arrived early. Sat in the second row. Watched the room fill. My mother's friends were there, carefully composed women from the country club circuit, the kind who attend court hearings the way others attend brunches, for narrative control later. My Aunt Patricia sat in the back row, hands folded tightly, face unreadable but older than I remembered. My father entered first. Shoulders tight. Head down. Moving like someone trying to take up less space than his body allowed. He didn't look at me. Then my mother. Chanel jacket. Ivory. Pearls. Familiar to the point of ritual. She sat with precise posture, adjusting her hands, smoothing her lapel, arranging herself into the version of her that had always survived consequences by refusing to acknowledge them. He did not look at me. Miss Carter began. The trust document went up on the screen first. Then the bank statements. One by one. Year by year. Transaction by transaction. The structure of it unfolded slowly across the courtroom like something being built too carefully to deny. A kitchen renovation. A country club membership. A car payment. A business loan. A vacation labeled family support. The gallery went quiet in stages. Not shocked silence. Recognizing silence. The kind people fall into when they realize they've been sitting near something they never questioned. By the third slide, Grace had her face in her hands. My father had gone still in a way that looked like collapse without movement. My mother. She lifted a hand to her pearls. Not a gesture of innocence. A reflex. A way of anchoring herself to the identity she had built. But it didn't hold. When the audit summary appeared, $151,400 misappropriated over 11 years. The room didn't react all at once. It reacted like a wave arriving late. Small gasps. Shifts in chairs. Whispers cut off mid-sentence. Judge Delacroix sat motionless through all of it. 26 years on the bench had given her a stillness that didn't read as emotion, but as finality waiting to be spoken. When she did speak, the room tightened. The evidence establishes a sustained pattern of misappropriation from a restricted trust, she said. The characterization of these withdrawals as family expenses does not constitute lawful distribution. Pause. Love is not a defense for fraud, Mrs. Reed. Another pause. Concern is not a defense for theft. The gavel came down. The sound was sharp enough to feel physical. Judgment entered, in my favor. Restitution ordered. Damages awarded. Legal costs assigned. Immediate. I stood, buttoned my blazer, picked up my bag, and walked out. In the hallway, the marble floor echoed under hurried footsteps. Her heels came first. Then her voice. Olivia. Her hand caught my arm. The first time I had ever felt her hold me without expectation attached to it. When I turned, she looked different. Not weaker exactly, but no longer untouchable. 63 years old. No armor left that fully fit. We're still family, she said quickly. Whatever this is, we can fix it. We can talk. I looked at her hand, then at her face. For the first time, I didn't see a role. I saw a person who had run out of ways to avoid being one. You canceled that too, I said quietly. I stepped back, turned, and walked out. Outside, winter light hit the courthouse steps clean and sharp. Cold air didn't feel like punishment. It felt like clarity. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Georgia area code. A text. Olivia Reed. I know what happened in court today. There's something else about your family you don't know yet. Something larger than the trust. I've been trying to reach the right person for 2 years. Please call me. I read it once. Then again. Then a third time slower. My mother had stolen my future to protect a lie that was already collapsing. And now something bigger was waiting. I called.